Hello viewers, this is Ranjana ma'am and you are watching, yes, yours as well as my channel. So I have got many requests regarding the specimen paper 2, or rather the specimen paper, board specimen paper of ISC literature, of second semester. That means the questions that might be expected, I wouldn't say, but the type of questions that you should expect in your semester 2. So like semester 1, here also the full marks is 40, but whereas in semester 1 all the 40 marks they were MCQs, here you have 8 marks for your MCQs, and then the remaining 32 marks, they are for your short question answers from the Tempest, Ecos and the Reverie. That means from poems, from prose and from your drama section you will be getting questions of 8 marks. So there will be first one. Not only there are two sections, section A, section B. Section A is the MCQ section. So here 8 marks, and here in these 8 marks you will be having MCQs from Tempest and the prose and the poems. And section B, which is of 32 marks, you will have 4 questions, question 2, question 3, question 4 and question 5. 4 questions and 2 subdivisions. That means question 2 will have 2 parts, question 1, question 2. So question 2 is from the Tempest, the drama. Question 3 is from the prose. So you will have 2 questions. They might not necessarily be from the same chapter. So question 3 has 2 questions, question 1, question 2. Question 4 also, this is a prose section, you will have 2 questions here also. So question 4 also has part 1, part 2. As I said, they may be from, both the questions may be from the same chapter, it may not be from the same chapter but from a separate chapter. And question 5 is the poem section, where you have 2 questions again, and one is from one poem and the second is from the other. So now let's go through the question paper. First one, there is an extract given. Iris, of her society be not afraid. I met her deity cutting the clouds towards Paphos, and her son dove drawn with her. So this is the extract, and you will be given a question and then there will be 4 options. Question 1, whom does Iris refer to as her? Her is within inverted commas. So first is Venus, second is Juno, third is Ceres, fourth is Sycorax. So whom does Iris refer to as her? So obviously her refers to Juno. I met her deity, because a little bit while ago Ceres had asked Iris if if Venus is also present there. So that is why Iris assures her. So here her refers to Venus. Why was the person afraid of her? So why was Ceres afraid of Juno? So there are again 4 options. First one, she used her beauty to get her desires. Second, B, she had conspired with Dis to abduct the person's daughter. C, she was close to Zeus. Zeus is the king of the gods. Juno is the queen and Zeus is the king. Another word would be Jupiter. And she used others for her end. So these are the 4 options. The correct one is she had conspired with Dis to abduct the person's daughter. Dusky Dis. So, and then question number 3, What is meant by dove drawn? So dove drawn is within inverted comma. It has been taken from the extract. So what is meant by dove drawn? 4 options: a drawing of doves, attracted by doves, the chariot was drawn by doves, and the 4th or D, doves were drawn to him. So here C is the correct option. The correct option is C. So these 3 are from your drama Tempest. Now for the prose section. So 5 MCQs still remain. So it will be well distributed between prose and poems. Since prose has 3 chapters, B. Wordsworth, Sound Machine and the Singing Lesson, so it will have more. And in poems there are only 2 poems, Dover Beach and We Are the Music Makers, so it should be having less questions. So the first extract in the prose is, "But my darling, if you love me," thought Miss Meadows, "I don't mind how much it is. Love me as little as you like." What had the darling informed Miss Meadows? So the darling which is in the extract, "but my darling." So what had the darling informed Miss Meadows? A, that he loved her. Again 4 options. B, that he could not go forward with their plans for marriage. C, that he was marrying someone else. And D, that he was going away. So A, C and D are ruled out. B is the correct option, that he could not go forward with their plans for marriage. So this is what Basil had informed in the letter. Where was Miss Meadows as she thought these thoughts? A, option A, in the music hall. Option B, in the corridor. Option C, at her window. And option D, in the principal's office. So Miss Meadows was in the music hall. As she was giving the music lessons, these thoughts came and tormented her. So option A, music hall. Now the third question. What was the effect of Basil's letter on Miss Meadows? What was the effect of Basil's letter on Miss Meadows? A, she was upset and agonized. B, she went into depression. C, she was struck dumb. And D, she had a heart attack. So A is the correct option. Yeah, she seemed to be very upset. How come? Only last week he had written something and now he has written that he doesn't want, and besides that word disgust. So she was upset and agonized. He seems so careless. And then what will I do now? So she was upset and agonized, not depressed. Upset and agonized. So these 3 gone. So all the 3 are from your singing lessons. Now section C, poems. There are 2. So 3 from the Tempest, 3 from the singing lesson, and from poems there are only 2 MCQs remaining. Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegean. Who is Sophocles? So this is from the Dover Beach. Who is Sophocles? A option, a Shakespearean character. B, the poet's ancestor. C, a Victorian poet. And D, a Greek tragedian. So Sophocles was a Greek tragedian. Option D is your correct option. And the second one, what did he hear on the Aegean? A, the tremulous sad note of the sea. B, the sounds of gulls. C, the sound of human misery. And D, the note of hope. So on the superficial level, the tremulous sad note of the sea, but that reminded him of the sound of human misery. He concluded it to be the sound of human misery. So C is the correct answer, not A. So these are your MCQs covering the whole syllabus and only 8 questions. Now for your section B, 32 marks. And see, one thing, you don't have to write lengthy answers, that is true. But at the same time, you must, if you have seen the paper already, you will realize that you have to study everything. No leaving out anything, because you are not getting any choice. Everything is compulsory. Not just the MCQs, all the 8. But question 2, question 3, question 4, question 5, your whole syllabus, whichever question they are giving you, you have to attempt all of them. Earlier it was easy. You all may have had a number of chapters, but you had a number of options too. You all got 3 questions from prose, 3 questions from poems, and 2 questions from the drama, The Tempest. So out of 8 you had to attempt 4. So 1 question from each section and 1, I think it was, or 3 or 4, whatever. But you had a wide range of choice, which you don't have now. Here you have to attempt everything. That means you have to study everything. You can't take chances. Like in ICSE, it's easy. In ICSE, they have 2 stories, 2 poems, and 2 from the drama, and you are to attempt 1 from each. So it is easy for them. They get an option, but you don't have any option. So what does this mean? That you have to study everything. The answers you might be only benefit is that you have to write small answers, 4 marks answers. But at the same time, you cannot leave anything. That means if you have not studied something, okay, there are 3 prose, I'll leave 1. You can't do that, because you never know if the question is coming from that. So you are getting everything, that is a fact. So from Tempest, which are the questions? 4 marks questions. You have got 2 4 marks question. Question number 2. The first question is, referring closely to the conversation between Prospero and Ferdinand at the beginning of Act 4 in The Tempest, bring out Prospero's concerns as a father. So you have seen, you have read that Prospero seems like most fathers, he seems to be a concerned father. So you have to bring out Prospero's concerns as a father with his conversation from Ferdinand. So right in the beginning of Act 4, Scene 1, when Prospero, after telling Ferdinand why he has punished him so severely and handing over Miranda to Ferdinand, he warns Ferdinand. What does he say? If thou dost break her virgin not. So this speech, where he warns Ferdinand, yes, I am handing over Miranda to you, but you cannot be physically close to her. You cannot be physically intimate with her before you get married. No physical proximity. She is yours, but you will have to wait till you get married. Okay, so otherwise he threatens what will happen. So if you take advantage of her closeness, if you do something which is not moral, not right before marriage, then what will happen? You will have a cursed marriage. Your marriage will be a cursed one. You will start hating each other. So you have to wait till marriage before you become physically close with her. That is one thing. And again in line number 50, again he warns Ferdinand, look, thou be true, do not give dalliance to the fire in the blood. The strongest oaths thus are straw to the fire of the blood. Be more abstemious, or else good night your vow. So here also he warns Ferdinand not to come too close to Miranda. Why? Because it happens that when you are too close, whatever promises you might have made, on account of the passion, they as if your oaths, you forget about your oaths. So again these lines prove Prospero's concern as a father when he talks to Ferdinand. His concern, he doesn't want his daughter he doesn't want Ferdinand to be physically close to him. He doesn't want Ferdinand to get close or intimate. So in two places he wants Ferdinand, warning him. He also tells him what frightening things will happen if he breaks Miranda's virgin knot. So in this way he hands over Miranda, but at the same time he wants, yes, sit and talk with her, but don't get too close to her before marriage. Now the second question, question 2, the second question in question 2. I told you question 2 is from the drama. So one question of Act 4 and the other question comes from Act 5. So what is it? How does Prospero prove the rarer action is in virtue than in vengeance in the final act of the Tempest? So this is a line from the drama. In Act 5, Scene 1, Prospero says this. So he tells this, Prospero tells this to Ariel. The rarer action is in virtue than in vengeance. So what does he mean by it? So all his enemies who had conspired against him, whether it is Alonso or Sebastian or Antonio, they had all treated him very badly. But at this moment they are at his mercy. They are in a miserable condition. So Prospero does not want to take revenge upon them. So they have done him great wrong. They have not only done great wrong to him but to his daughter. But now at this moment the tables have turned against these conspirators. So Prospero very naturally, it is very natural for Prospero to take revenge. But he is a noble person. He is not like them. So he rather wants to be merciful. He is very noble, and that is why instead of taking revenge, he wants to be merciful towards them. He feels they are really repentant. So Prospero does not want to pursue his course of hostility towards them anymore. He has done whatever he had wanted by raising the tempest and bringing them here, and then the banquet and all that, and keeping them separated from keeping the father separated from the son, and making him agonized that he has lost his son. So he feels he has done enough, and now and finally the last trump card was the harpy, who came and reminded them of their sin. So they are now all repentant. So now Prospero does not want to carry this act of vengeance anymore. He wants to forgive them, and now he wants to extend a hand of friendship. So there is the virtue of forgiveness. He makes us realize the virtue of forgiveness. He does not want to take his revenge on these people anymore. So the drama part gone. Now comes your prose section. So from prose section, question number 3, question 1. So this I told you question number 3 also has 2 questions of 4 marks each. The first one, referring closely to the short story The Sound Machine, describe the encounter between Klausner and Mrs. Saunders, and how did it affirm his belief in his own invention? So this one has 2 parts. First one is the conversation, and how did it affirm his belief in his own invention? So this is the second part. So 2 subdivisions in question 3, part 1, question 1 of section 3 or question number 3. So the first question coming from prose, this one has 2 parts, referring closely to the short story The Sound Machine, Describe the encounter between Klausner and Mrs. Saunders. So first will be, you will refer to the encounter, what talks they had, and then how did it affirm his belief in his own invention. So what happened, as after Dr. Scott left, so Klausner was, he had carried his sound machine to the garden, and then he was, sometimes he suddenly he heard a frightful piercing shriek. So then he tried to locate the origin of the sound. Where is it from? So he could not see anyone anywhere, only a next door lady, a lady in the next door, Mrs. Saunders. But she was not shouting. So from where was the noise coming? So then he saw that she was cutting yellow roses across the lawn in her garden. And the moment she cut a rose, and again he heard that shriek. So he thinks it could be the shriek of the rose plant, and he wanted to verify it. So he calls out to her, and then he tells her to cut the plant, another plant. So with the help of her clippers to cut another plant, so another stem rather. So Mrs. Saunders, she knew that this neighbor was an eccentric person but not harmful. So she cuts, and then again he hears the same noise. So, and then yes, the frightful throatless shriek in his earphone could be heard. So he tells her that then he tells her not to cut anymore. And then he explains that while you were cutting the roses, so this gives him the firm belief when again and again he hears the shriek whenever she cuts the stem of the rose. This gave him, this affirmed his belief in his own invention, that the sound machine can really catch the sounds which are not audible to our ears normally, but there are sounds. And even a plant can cry out. And this is what he explains to her also. He tells that yes, it is the rose plant which cried out. You might not have heard it. It might not have a vocal cord, and it might not have the organs which we have. But that does not mean that it cannot shout out. It cannot feel the pain which we do. So this is the answer for this part. But another question also will be from the same chapter. It's not necessary, but in the specimen, the second question of question 3, that is also from this chapter itself. The line is, then paint the cut with iodine. With reference to this line, what is your understanding of Klausner? Do you sympathize with him? Give your reasons. So, Klausner appears to be a very sensitive man. He seems to be a sensitive man. He loved nature. He could feel the pain of the tree and plants. So, this is what I feel about Klausner. Do you sympathize with him? Yes, I do. He seems to be a lover of nature. So, whatever he had done, it was only to understand whether the tree is really, whether it is correct, whether it is really true that trees also feel pain. And after having done the deed, he is sad. He feels apologetic. He even confesses, sorry tree or something. He says, no, I'm sorry, but it will heal, as if he is trying to offer an apology and tell the tree that its wound will heal. Then he tells also Dr. Scott to stitch up that part which had been injured by the axe. And when Dr. Scott says it cannot be done, then he tells, then put iodine, paint the cut with iodine. Why? Because he basically thinks of the tree as a living being, and he feels that the tree feels as much pain as we do when we suffer an injury. And as we offer medication on that place where we are injured, we put some medicine, like we put iodine. So he also wants the tree to be treated in the same manner. So he is a sensitive person. He has love for plants and trees. And he is more concerned about the injury of the tree than about the loss of his machine. His machine, on account of the falling of the branch, has been destroyed. But he seems unconcerned about the machine. Rather, he is more concerned about the pain that the tree has got. So yes, he has our sympathies. I sympathize with him, and I told you why. The reason is that he is not a thoughtless person. He wants to know if they feel the pain, and once he realizes, once his belief is affirmed that they feel the pain with the help of his sound machine, he tries to heal, he apologizes, he tries to heal the injury. So he seems to be a sensitive person, and all sympathies for him. And now comes the next question, that is also from prose. So question 3, question 4, 8 marks, 4 plus 4, they are both from prose. So question 4, there will be 2 questions carrying 4 marks each. And this time the first question is from one chapter and the second question is from a different chapter. So the first question is from the singing lessons. Referring closely to the short story The Singing Lessons, relate what Basil wrote in his letter to Miss Meadows. What do you conclude about Basil from the tone and wording of the letter? So this is the question. So what is your opinion? What do you think of him? So what is the letter? What has he written in the letter? So Basil, in his letter to Miss Meadows, he states that their marriage would be a mistake. Why? He is not of the marrying type. The thought of settling down fills him with disgust. This is what he had written earlier, and then very carelessly he scratches off disgust and he replaces it with regret. So what is your opinion? So the second part is, what do you conclude about Basil? So what do you think about him from the tone and wording of the letter? So I feel he is insensitive. How could he write disgust? And if he, after writing disgust, he cut it, he scratched it, but very carelessly, so that yes, Miss Meadows could see that he had written disgust and then cut it. So that shows his insensitive nature, careless. He is fickle-minded also. One day he writes a letter that he is buying some furniture, and the next day he sends this letter, and then he sends a telegram telling that I must have been off my mind. So he seems to, and he is much younger than Miss Meadows, so he is not yet mature. I would rather say he is rather immature, fickle-minded and insensitive. This is the opinion which I feel. So the second part was, what do you conclude? So this is what I can conclude, and I am sure you will be also having the same thoughts. So now for the poems. Referring closely to the poems, we are the music makers. Refer to any 2 examples given by the poet which identify poets and singers as movers and shakers. So this question carries 4 marks. So, and you have to give 2 examples to prove that the poets and singers, they are considered as losers and forsakers, but at the same time they also are potent enough to move and shake the world. Their art, the poets and singers, with the help of their art, they can move and shake the world. They can bring about a radical change in the pattern of life. So the poet, according to the poet, though poets and singers, they remain aloof from society, and that is why they are called losers, they are also the movers and shakers in the real sense. So whether it is a poet or a singer or a painter, people of art, artists of any form, so whether through their music, through their paintings, through their writings, they can stir the world, bring a change in the world. So their powerful art is capable of this. So the powerful arts of several artists, maybe powerful song of a singer or the powerful poem of a poet. So they can build up world's great cities. How? In their songs, in their writings, in their paintings. Through this they can build up great cities. And even an empire at its glory, the stories can be formed by authors. So through the writing, an author or a writer can give a man to dream and to move forward to become a king, to conquer a crown. And the songwriter, what does he do? He can make a person get the freedom to bring about a revolution and bring the downfall of an empire. So one man, he rises to glory and becomes a king through maybe the writing of an author, and through the song composed by a singer, or maybe a poet, he writes a poem, and through that song or the poem he can bring the downfall of a monarch who is already ruling. So poems, works of art, they are very potent. Then the most famous example that he gives is that of Babel and Nineveh. So art is very divine. So poets and artists, they are the real movers and shakers. They can, when they are not happy, they can create a Nineveh. So Nineveh and Babel, what is the background of this? So it was said that Nineveh was a very flourishing capital in its time, a very flourishing capital, and it came to ruins and then it was never rebuilt. So it suffered a decline or a destruction. And then the people of Babel, what did they do? They made a tower so high that it would reach heavens. So humans, why did they do it? Because they wanted to reach the same height. They wanted to reach heavens and claim their equality with God. God is in heaven, we can also reach heaven. So this was symbolic of their pride and strength. So what did God do? He punished them by giving them different languages. And then when they started talking in different languages, they could not communicate with each other. And so Babel was never built. It was never completed. I wouldn't say never built. It was never completed, and it never reached its goal to compete with God. So when the artists were distressed, they built a Nineveh, and when they were full of happiness, they built a Babel. So Nineveh and Babel, they are symbolic of the rise and fall of the humans. So fall of the humans Nineveh, rise of the humans Babel. But though it was never completed, they felt very proud. Oh, we can equate with God. So they were building Babel. So through this, the poet is trying to highlight the power of the artist, the power to create and also destroy with the same art. So an author can write something to create or to glorify something, and then with that very art he can write something and bring the downfall of an empire. So they are the ultimate movers and shakers. Nineveh and Babel is one example. Nineveh, when they were distressed, suffered ruins and it was never rebuilt. And Babel, that was symbolic of the joy. When they were happy and they wanted to compete with God, they started building Babel. So these are the two examples. So that means art can bring about a change in society. It is as if a medium for change. With the help of art, we can change the existing norms. So something has it has reached too much heights and it has become a symbol of arrogance and pride, so bring it down. And then also create something new. So art has this power. It can also artists are capable of arousing the emotions of people and inspire them to go for a change. So that is why they are the artists with their art, whether it is a song or a poem or a story. They are the movers and shakers of this world. And then the last question of question 5, the second question, that is from another poem. Discuss how in the poem Dover Beach, the poet Matthew Arnold reposes faith in love as a lesson of hope amidst the surrounding despair. So Dover Beach and Matthew Arnold reposes faith in love as a beam of hope amidst the surrounding despair. So we find Matthew Arnold also quite shattered. So this world seemed to be lacking in faith, and then he highlights the comforting power of love. So in the last line, doesn't he say, "Our love, let us be true to one another"? Why? Because he feels that this very world, this very world cannot offer any peace. This is a dark world, it is a chaotic world, and there is no peace. The world outwardly, what it appears, in reality it is not so. This world is devoid of joy, light, peace, and relief from pain. None of them are there. It doesn't offer promises, fulfillment of promises. So it is like a battlefield at night, and soldiers, they don't know whom they are really fighting. So unable to identify whether the person in front of you is a friend or an enemy. So it is a dark plain where ignorant armies clash by night. And now he believes that in this world, with its science and commercialism, where religion has lost its place, people have lost their faith. So only thing that can restore man's faith in religion and the goodness of the world is love. It is through love between a man and a woman that they should be true to each other, and then it is this love which can only give meaning to life. Our love, let us be true to one another. So this love between a man and woman, without this, life will become meaningless in this world. Why? Because this world is a chaotic world, and outwardly what seems is not so in reality. So love is the healing power. It is the comforting power which can bring a man out of this chaotic state. His loss of faith in religion, the faith shattered by Darwin's theory of evolution and all that. So in this hopeless situation, the only comforting power is that love, and through love they can bring a meaning to their life. So these are the questions. So you must have understood one thing very clearly, if you have not understand it now, that without thorough preparation you will not be able to score well in this paper. MCQ of all 40 MCQs have given you a good foothold. You have a sound platform there. But here it is not so. Here you have to study everything. You cannot leave anything. No choice. Because you don't know what question is coming from, where it is coming. If you had lengthy questions, it was better. Whatever it is, the summary you put, and then something from here and there, and at least. But in these 4 marks questions, they are more dangerous because they will be from a particular place. So in that case, you have to study each and every paragraph and take my word seriously. Yeah, so I have discussed to you, and then after this in my next video I'll go for the 2 acts of the Tempest, and I will be again discussing the important parts, though everything is important in ISC, but from the drama point of view, the ones which need more focus. Everything is important, you have to study everything, but places which you should concentrate more, which may be difficult, one reading would not do, you need to give 2 or 3 readings. So in that case I will go for the revisions. My revisions will begin in ICSE, it has already begun, so I will come up with the revision of your syllabus of semester 2. So yes, this time I did not say in the beginning, but now if you have not subscribed to my channel up till now, please do, and don't forget to press the bell after having viewed it, because I know you all are going to like it. I have that confidence. So bye and happy preparations.